What's up everyone and welcome back. Conor McGregor versus Kamaru Usman for the title is not something Khamzat Chimaev is against. Did you know that Khamzat Chimaev has a YouTube channel? The videos are damn slick and he answers some questions from the Twitter sphere where he gives pretty honest answers about all things fight. Now, if you know anything about Khamzat, you know he's pretty confident in his abilities, and he's no different here. He talks about how he believes he'll get the next crack at the welterweight championship after he beats Gilbert Burns on April 9th. The Burns fight at UFC 273 will be Khamzat's biggest test to date, taking on a BJJ world champion and a former welterweight title challenger who is always dangerous. But whether or not he wins the Burns fight, he wouldn't be mad if the UFC instead chose to allow Conor McGregor to skip the line and take on the champion instead. In fact, he'll also offer McGregor the opportunity to train with him and his team in Sweden. This is what he said about McGregor in the recent video.
Conor McGregor.
If you want to be back, if you need some help, we're here. If you want to fight Usman, I think maybe can happen because the guy is so famous. They can make money, good money, both. That's why if they want to fight both, I think UFC want to make that.
McGregor's name has been on the tip of everyone's tongue recently due to comments that he made about wanting to go on a 170-pound title run upon his return from a broken leg injury later this year. In some ways, Boers and the Notorious One are alike, having starched their opponents in their first few fights in the UFC, save for that one time McGregor faced a young Max Holloway in his second fight in the UFC, which went the full 15 minutes. Boers and the Notorious One have a lot of hype behind them after racking up just a few victories. And while McGregor fought for the interim featherweight title in his sixth fight, Khamzat is about to enter his fifth fight and could potentially fight for the belt next with a win if rumors are true. At the moment, Kamaru Usman is slated to fight #1 contender Leon Edwards in a rematch of their 2015 encounter. This fight has yet to be scheduled as Usman is still recovering from a broken hand injury that he suffered late last year. This fight may happen just before or around the time that McGregor makes his return. In the meantime, there's the Khamzat Burns bout that could determine who the champion will take on next, especially if Usman comes out on top over Edwards. The welterweight title shot picture is certainly interesting at the moment. But what do you think? What are your thoughts on Khamzat's comments about McGregor fighting for a welterweight title? And do you think the UFC would give Khamzat a title shot if he beats Burns on April 9th? UFC ripped by a couple of Jakes over Paddy the Baddy's UFC London fight purse. Paddy Pimblett made waves last Saturday when he submitted Rodrigo Cazula Vargas in just the first round at UFC London. He's generated a ton of hype in the short amount of time he's been in the UFC, but he's incredibly popular and his momentum is only gaining more steam. He's great on the mic and really fun to watch in the octagon. And this is the reason why some are perplexed and even angry over what he's being paid: $12,000 to show and $12,000 to win his last fight. The British lightweight recently confirmed how much he made for the fight to Barstool Sports this week.
This thing says you made 12 grand for the fight. That can't be right.
Yeah, 12 and 12.
That's not correct? Or is that right?
No, yeah, 12 and 12, so 12 to show, 12 to win.
You got $24,000 for that fight total?
Yeah, and then the bonus.
Really?
When news of that hit the Twitter sphere, many people began to chime in with their reaction. One of those people is former UFC fighter Jake Shields, who ripped the UFC over Paddy's pay. UFC main event making $24K is absolutely shameful and embarrassing to Paddy and should be to Dana too. Then, after some of the other Twitter users clarified that he wasn't the main event, Shields stated this: "I guess he wasn't the main event, but still unreal to make $24K and people in the comments acting like it's fine." Another Jake who is ripping the UFC over this is Jake Paul. No surprise here. He's been lambasting the promotion over fighter pay for the last year. Concerning Paddy's pay, this is what he tweeted: "Paddy Pimblett getting pimped. Who manages these guys?" What do you make of Jake Shields and Jake Paul's statements over what Paddy the Baddy made at UFC London? And do you agree with them? Join the discussion in the comment section. Jorge Masvidal's promoter's license on ice as he's arrested, charged over restaurant altercation. Jorge Masvidal has had plans for a while to make his own Gamebred Fighting Championship alongside Annual AA. He's been applying for a promoter's license in the state of Nevada, hoping to host fight shows in Las Vegas. But these plans hit a snag when he became involved in a physical altercation with Colby Covington just outside a Miami steakhouse. In order to be granted a promoter's license from the Nevada State Athletic Commission, the applicant is vetted not just on their financials and whether they have the money suitable for this, but also their personal history, with a specific section that mentions arrests, detentions, and litigations, the last of which Masvidal is currently embroiled in. The Nevada State Athletic Commission meeting took place just days after the altercation outside the restaurant in Miami, and Masvidal joined in on the call, requesting that the commission postpone his application to a later date. This is what he said in addressing the commission.
Since I do have a open case, I'm not supposed to talk about it, but I guess you're referencing that. Yeah, if we could table it for better, it'd be better. Right now, I had a mutual combatant with another athlete, and I can't say too much on this, but they told me to say. But if we could table it for later, that'd be amazing as well.
NSAC Chairman Stephen J. Klubeck granted the request and stated that the current application is not valid in light of recent events. The application being on ice is perhaps what's best in this situation and gives Masvidal a much better chance to have the application approved later rather than sooner. At the moment, Colby has not made any public statements over what specifically transpired earlier this week, but no doubt we'll be hearing more about it once the legal matter is settled. Throughout the call, Masvidal was super respectful, gave deference to the commission as well as Las Vegas as the fight capital of the world, and expressed his desire to have Gamebred FC fight in the state. Shortly after his request to table the application was granted, news of Masvidal's arrest hit the airwaves as Miami Beach police handcuffed Gamebred and later took him to Turner Guilford Night Correction Center. It's based on a police report that stated that someone, alleged to be Masvidal, ran up behind the unnamed victim, believed to be Colby, and hit them, leaving them with a fractured tooth and abrasion to their left wrist. CCTV footage was captured of the incident. Masvidal now faces charges of aggravated battery causing great bodily harm and criminal mischief. At the time of the video, he's still being held on $15,000 bail. What do you think about the NSAC tabling Masvidal's application for a promoter's license? And what are your initial thoughts on Masvidal's arrest?
I was sitting with Dana, and me and Dana went dinner, eat dinner. And I said to him, what next for me when I finish that guy? He said, maybe title. He said, if I finish him that easy way, I do with everybody. He said, people want to see only the fight for title. And he said, maybe I'll give you that chance.
Don't forget to take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all of the latest fight news. Arrested. Conor McGregor handcuffed in Ireland on dangerous driving charges. According to Irish newspapers, Conor McGregor's car was seized by local police in Dublin and was arrested for dangerous driving on Tuesday. The former UFC and Cage Warriors champ was caught driving his Bentley dangerously in West Dublin. He was taken to a local station and later released on bail. His car returned to him. Following news of his arrest, McGregor's spokesman issued a statement to the media. Mr. McGregor was driving to the gym when he was stopped by Gardaí for alleged road traffic violations. He passed the drug and alcohol tests taken at the station. The maximum penalty for dangerous driving is a fine of up to 5,000 euros, or just under $5,500 US, and/or a 6-month prison sentence. McGregor is no stranger to being pulled over by local police, as back in 2018, his license was briefly revoked. A year earlier, he had to pay a small fine for speeding. At the moment, he's been spending a lot of time at home in Dublin recovering from a broken leg injury that he suffered in his trilogy fight against Dustin Poirier back in July. Still, McGregor is expected to return to action sometime later in 2022. What do you make of this arrest of McGregor? DC blasts Gamebred over Colby Covington's street tussle. Just days after Jorge Masvidal and Colby Covington allegedly became involved in a physical altercation outside a restaurant on Miami Beach, the pundits are now weighing in over what transpired. Masvidal was allegedly physical in this confrontation that saw Colby allegedly hit in the face and head several times. police have gotten involved, as Masvidal has been arrested and charged with aggravated battery, causing great bodily harm, and criminal mischief. Someone who has a problem with what Masvidal did or did not do is former two-division UFC champion Daniel Cormier. DC had a massive rivalry with then light heavyweight champion Jon Jones for several years that spilled outside of the cage several times, mostly just shouting matches in hotel lobbies, but it did get physical one time as he and Bones came to blows during a press event ahead of UFC 178 back in August 2014. In a recent episode of the DC and RC show on ESPN, Cormier stated that his problem with the alleged Masvidal-Colby incident is the fact that the two just fought in the octagon 2 weeks ago. This is what Cormier said.
Jorge Masvidal, you had 25 minutes less than 2 weeks ago to do everything you wanted. It does not seem as though this was gosh, it's so hard here not to assume, but it does not seem as though this was a come face to face and we get into a fight. It seems like something different. And that's where it becomes a little bit off.
However, DC did go on to say that Colby wasn't totally innocent in this, as he's played a major role in the whole thing getting to this point, with all his smack talk and mentioning of Masvidal's kids in the lead up to the UFC 272 encounter earlier this month. What do you make of Cormier's comments here concerning Masvidal? Thanks so much for joining us and catching up on all things Today MMA. What do you make of what's going on in the fight world? Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all the latest news from the MMA Zone. See you next time.